All right. Hi, everyone. So first of all, a round of applause for all the talks that have happened so far. We do have like two more talks remaining, and then we also have the Music Hack Day reveal that's going to come in. But yeah, I think we can get to the panel. And I think one of the important reasons of doing an ADCx India and a Music Hack Day India, the whole point was to bring everyone together. And yeah, we did that photography thing as well. But the whole idea is that there are a lot of people right here sitting in the audience doing a lot of interesting work in different pockets of India. And the way to build an ecosystem is, I mean, we have done a lot of discussions offline as well. And what we realized is that if you want to build an ecosystem, there needs to be work done across different fronts. So in terms of audio tech, the examples could be, you need somebody in the industry who's building a startup, like actually making some products. You need some people who are doing research, and the research does not have to have an aim of making something as an output, but just explore what's the possibility. There is the end user, the artists who use these audio products day in and out. And there are also sound engineers who help the artists get all their creative ideas to an actual audio output that we get to listen, right? So we thought, okay, let's have a panel where we actually discuss about building an ecosystem and actually consider all of these four parts of making that happen as a possibility. And that's where we have Krishna Chetan on my far left. And he brings in the sound engineer point of view to this panel. So Krishna, would you like to introduce yourself a little bit to the audience?
Hey everyone, I'm Krishna Chetan, primarily a music producer and a mixing engineer. I primarily work for Mishra for almost 2 decades. So during the pandemic, I built a music tech startup, and we're now making on plugins and tools for music creators around the world. And I'm happy to be doing it.
Yeah, awesome. So, yeah, round of applause for Krishna. Next, we have Siddharth Bhardwaj, who represents the audio tech industry. He has a startup. So, Siddharth, would you like to introduce yourself to the audience?
Yeah, hi. Thanks for all the wonderful talks. I'm Siddharth. I'm the co-founder and CTO at Beethoven. So we are a generative music startup out of Bangalore, and we are building a background music creation tool for content. It could be games, videos, podcasts, anything that needs background music for it. So we want to build the most customizable system, like whatever you have in mind, whatever vision you have for the audio or music, you can realize it on Beethoven. So that's the kind of motivation that we have.
All right. And next we have Manaswi Mishra, who represents the academic side of the whole industry. So Manaswi, would you like to introduce yourself?
Hello, everybody. It's very nice to meet a lot of familiar faces, many new friends and faces I've been making. I'm Manaswi. I'm a PhD student at the MIT Media Lab in a group called Opera of the Future. And my research is all about designing new musical instruments, thinking about generative AI as a musical instrument. So how can I express my ideas, shape it, and make and perform music live? That's what I'm interested in now. I have been in universities for the last 10 years. Maybe I'm just afraid to go out into the real world. But I like it there, and very happy to be here in this context.
Awesome. And next we have Sneha Khanwalkar, the renowned music director. Who I'm sure everybody would have heard her music already. Sneha, would you like to introduce yourself in the context of the audio tech world?
So I've been working as a music director in not so Bollywood really, but Hindi film industry. And recently I have kind of, started an experimental startup. I mean, experiment for us, because we don't know how to create a startup to begin with. And so baby steps into a startup called Soundcake, which is mainly to, bring musicians together and see if they can work with each other from their homes.
Yeah, that's awesome. So yeah, I think to begin the conversation, it would be interesting to get to know from each of you about when we say like building an audio tech ecosystem, like what's the thing that comes to your mind? So we can start probably with Krishna.
Can you hear now? So when you say ecosystem, it's exactly what you said. Like, it's bringing together the researchers, the people who make products, end products, and students, and all these people together under one roof. And I think that's what we are doing exactly today. And when I started my company, Pitch Innovations, back 2 years, I mean, during the pandemic, there's no such event, no such possibility to even find one person who's doing audios in C++, in India. So I think you've already done a great job, and like in this direction. Um, and I feel like we do need like masters in audio program in India, which I feel is really missing in India, because if I want some hardcore DSP development people, I really need to find someone abroad, because and most people who go from here to study masters abroad stay there, they don't come back. But yeah, I think things are changing. People are coming back, and it's. I think we are at a great starting point, and we are at a great point in terms of even the economic growth of India, where the tech startup ecosystem is in India, and all of that combined. I think we can see some great companies and products coming out of India in the music tech space. So.
Yeah, Siddharth. Yeah.
Yeah, so to me, the audio tech ecosystem is, of course, like it's an amalgamation of all of these different stakeholders. But I think it's also about like a lot of about the economics of the whole space. So it's pretty much centered around like Bollywood or the film music industry on the whole. And like that's where the money is. And that doesn't flow through all of these different aspects like the academia or the startup world or so that it needs to flow there. And of course, like communities need to be there to talk about such things and just meet each other and learn and build some more. Building is the most important thing. And I think if other like some startups or research problems are interesting enough for the ecosystem as a whole, I think that will also, the money flow will also come in, and hence that will also accelerate the growth of overall ecosystem.
I agree with everything that has been said. And maybe what I can add is, even though, I mean, we realize in this space that there are so many different meanings of what music is and what it means to people and how to interact and be creative with it and what kinds of technologies to build. And it is obvious in every technology that ideas of our culture get immersed into the technology the way it's built, because it allows to do certain things, doesn't allow to do certain things. So when we are using technology built by other cultures, we struggle with it, and we heard from some of the talks, some of those struggles. So I can add that maybe we should vigorously encourage and cultivate creating in new and different ways, in ways outside of the capitalistic tools, just to push music in the directions that we think it means, because every generation has new musical instruments and what music means, from acoustic instruments to electronic instruments to live coding that we heard, and maybe future AI. I don't know what is to come. That's a few cents of mine.
Yeah, I think that's great. So, Sneha.
I mean, I have an example. Recently, a few of my friends are here who I sometimes hang with only so I can learn a little bit of their tech world. But we were trying to build this community called Noise, and we have built it. It's just that we don't have any money to do any major concerts, festivals, etc. with the people we have, the performers that we have. I feel like I'm still in the commissioned music space. And so I know that there can be projects. Like there was this this animation film called Shirkwa, which was a German-French production, but the director is Indian. And I think it was, it had a lot of scope for experimental music, to just put everything in one umbrella. And the director was also super open, and there was money. There was a package, a budget. And at this point, I think, considering the deadlines, I would have loved to do a boot camp Shirkwa somewhere and got together all my friends. And I think I did discuss with one or two people whether we could get together and make music using other ways. But, things have to be more, I don't know, more mobile in that scenario, because then we did the project, we had deadlines, we finished it off, and we did what we could, but it would be amazing to also have more minds on it and new ways on it. So there is a small bridge that can start happening. I just feel like we haven't been talking enough with each other. Just to, 10 years ago, when I was traveling in the US, this is just to show where I come from. And I was traveling in the US, and I saw this meetup that was posted by some guy called Dave. So I went there and I was looking for Dave, and turns out it was Dev. So anyway, so what I mean is that, there's a whole lot of gap between my kind of musicians and your kind of coders and, developers. And we just need to talk, really. That's all.
I think so. I think what I'm hearing is that there are some things happening already, and there are some action items that can be taken. But and I think all of you have explored that already. You have already tried some stuff. So where do you think we are at right now in the context of India, from people who are exploring coding in making some things, or people who are doing activities? Where do you see as of now? What's the current state, in your opinion, for people who are based in India and are into the audio tech already? But they might be doing things in small pockets. They are not collaborating yet. But based on for example, Siddharth, you have been in touch with many startups who are also kind of exploring the voice related things, for example, right? So what's your visibility into that, and what's the current state that we see here?
Yeah, I think in the startup ecosystem, we definitely are trying to solve some really nice use cases like Dubverse or Fori. So those are some names in the text-to-speech domain, and they are trying to do, as Fori already mentioned, what are the use cases? Why is there a need to do that kind of speech-related research? In the music space, also we have lot of artists that are using these tools to create some amazing, crazy, weird, avant-garde music, and also some really nice music in maybe independent films or documentaries, or where they can experiment. They have the bandwidth to experiment with. And I think that's happening, but maybe some bridge again needs to be built out, where more tools need to be built out for those musicians to experiment with, or in collaboration with them, not in isolation from them. So I think that's the most important bit. Whenever there is a development going on, it's more in the startup style, where there is no space for a musician or an artist. I think that could be done, especially in the musical context. In the speech context, again, as you mentioned, linguists are already involved. So I think that's one thing that can help build the bridges on both sides. It has to end on both sides. So musicians, more tools need to be known, explored, and on the startup side, musicians need to be involved as well.
Yeah, any other of you who has visibility into what's happening in India right now? What many people here might not be even aware of activities that are already in place, right? So for example, we had some amazing talks, and we never realized that many of these folks were hanging out in Bangalore, and we just met here, and then we realized, oh yeah, you were just here, and we just never connected. So are there any more examples, or where do you see the current status of the audio tech community in India already, that exists?
Sorry. So I recently met Jagan, who's from Algorave actually, and we from Chennai, actually literally just few kilometers away. But he has done great DSP work, but we've never connected before. So only through this ADCx it was possible. So and same in the music tech company side, I met Mariano from Swarplug. Shout out to Mariano. So we all know Swarplug. Swarplug is from him. So I always thought Swarplug was an Indian company, and then got to know it's from Switzerland, from that beautiful person. So yeah, so I think there are talent, but it's all pockets, and it's we really needed events like this, more of the events like this, and to connect and do something together.
Yeah, I think so. On the context of like collaborating and doing something together, I think so. Krishna, you and Siddharth has been already making companies, and I think you would have also gotten into the process of finding the right people. So how has that experience been like connecting with and finding developers who also have like some kind of music background, or maybe the right people who you think will actually be able to understand your vision? So how has that experience been?
So yeah, so this was tough for me, right? Initially, we started 2020. That time, like I couldn't find one person who knew C++ and audio and was able to do juice stuff for us. And so literally, I had to send out a project to Israel and outsource the project. But then for our second plugin, we built I kind of found few people and then put them together and say, here's the code base of my first plugin. I want you to decode this, and then help me build my second plugin. And then who turned out to be good in that, we hired, and then we kind of literally built the first few audio developers in C++ in India, right? So, so that's how it happened, and I really feel like there are a lot of pockets of talent, and it's difficult to connect with these people, right? And also the interest in audio domain is also only recently started, right? Like in terms of academics and all that. So as I said, it's still at very early stage in India, and we still have a lot of work to do that. And the second part of your question is, um, we always look at people who know music rather than hiring someone who just know C++ and then training them on music, which doesn't make sense for us, because in the musical side of things, you have to know so much in order to code a music plugin. Like you need to know what's a music instrument, what's scales, rugs, what's tempo, time signature, what's a DAW, what's a VST, blah, 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 the list goes on. So it's very difficult for us to train all of this. So I rather try and find someone who has a knowledge of all of this, but even if their C++ talent is a little bit, we can always train them on what we need. Yeah. And that's what we've been doing. And today we have some of our developer team here, and they're all enjoying. So I want to give a shout out to my team in Chennai as well. Yeah, thank you.
Round of applause for the team. Pitch innovations. So Siddharth, how has your experience been?
So yeah, for us, it hasn't been very difficult actually, because like we have been connected to the community in terms of like my co-founder he belongs to a gharana of sitar players, and he is connected very well to the musician community, and also he has done a music tech masters as well. So he also has some connections in the tech space, and like quite a few of us here, like we have built out music tech community, and we have hosted some meetups in the past, hack days in the past, and there we met like our first employee, who's Ashish, is sitting in the audience somewhere, and yeah, so through this community, through the network of network, Ajay is here, who has also helped us with some of our hiring, and yeah, so that's how, like through network, through meeting people, that's where we hire usually. We also have a few research folks in Europe, since we couldn't find the exact talent that we wanted in India. So we also have a couple of folks who have joined us from Europe, and I think it would still be a mix, like since we are a remote startup, so we can afford to have like a mixed team, a global team, and yeah, we need not stick to Bangalore itself, and yeah, so
Yeah,
that
okay.
gives us a bit more flexibility on that front.
Yeah, of course. I think so. I think the stories are very similar for both of you. I mean, you kind of figured out people who are interested in this, and like for Krishna, I think you had to find somebody like with some search and all that, and that even then it was connections of connections, right? And then for Siddharth, it was like he's already connected with the community, and he's also building one, and that way there was like it was a little bit comparatively easier. I wouldn't say like completely easy, but yeah, comparatively easier. But I think it's really interesting how doing these kind of meetups and discussing ideas just opens up so many possibilities, right? And I think one of the things that what we have realized is that there are a lot of, because I think everybody here is also musicians first, and or sound designer first, or audiophiles first, and then a developer. I think majority of us. So I think even when we do the discussions like that, or when we let's say we use we use a DAW or we use a plugin or we are experimenting with voice, like what do you do, Manaswi? You also kind of start to realize the problem statements. Hey, you know what? This is not very easy to do. So this is a question for all of you. What are the possibilities or challenges that you first of all notice in the audio world, both from a creative standpoint and also from the tech standpoint? And what are the ideas and that you think can actually be solved out, or how can that be enhanced? Like how can that process of solving those problems be enhanced? Like how can we collectively find problems, or how can we realize that, okay, hey, you know what? I was experimenting with this stuff one day and it did not work for me. I should probably connect with somebody who was also in that space and then try and build something together. So have you already like explored that aspect? Like, for example, when you're making music on your own or like experimenting with stuff?
I know the answer you want from me. So basically, I have been traveling to collect samples, right? You can say one is a sample musician. And I really believe in that process because I feel like the kind of authenticity is too much of a word, but I feel like somebody who's living a certain kind of a life and then plays a flute instead of somebody in the industry who's just playing flute for their career and may not think too much of every recording they go for. So there is that difference, right? So I seek out certain things specifically and travel to find them. And sometimes, you want that industry jaded effect. And that's when you record a veteran and, sometimes you also want that skill over heart and things like that, or both or whatever. But having said that, this travel experience cannot be done all the time. In 2020, I delivered my first baby, and somebody wanted to do sound tripping all over again. There was this show that I had done for MTV that was even like 10 years ago, and they wanted to redo it. So COVID happened after 3 months, and of course I wouldn't have been able to travel. So then I was thinking of some hacks so that I still can do sound tripping. And then I thought, why not sound tripping online? And then I thought that let's do this experiment where 6 or 7 musicians came on Zoom, and then we would start with one idea and gamify it a little bit. I would send a file and then would give them 90 seconds or 120 seconds to do something to it and send it off. So Chinese whispers with music, and trust me, it was so much fun because at the end of the day, at the end of the loop, the music piece would become something else, and it was funny and it was really fun. So we were experimenting with different ideas, and then I felt that there is somebody sitting in a small gully in Banaras, or somebody sitting in Israel or Egypt or wherever, and who wants to work with me right now, and my other team people do not because it's 3 a.m. and they don't want to pick up my call. But there's somebody who might be available to work and would be correct for that piece. How do I connect all of us together? And that's how Soundcake happened. Of course, it started with great dreams, like, I'll start one idea and go to sleep, and then things will come and attach. It's, to the piece, and then it'll become some hybrid something. The next morning I'll wake up and I mean, but yeah, so can be done, but needs a lot of developmental discussion. So yeah.
Yeah. I mean, so any like possibilities that you have come across of people coming together and building something and.
Well, this is an example, but it's really great to hear from these answers. I mean, I have been in a university, so I meet a lot of people that come to university for so many reasons. Some are curious about research questions, some want to upskill. So to think about like your question, which is, so you're asking like, what are ways to build these bridges, I guess, in these ecosystems. We've already talked about each of us making efforts and being in the same spaces together. I think, to me, it's like, I guess there is the bridge. There are people that want to build the bridge. What you just described sounds so exciting. I want to be in this Zoom call and participate as well. I think many people here would love to try these ideas out. So again, it's that thing of like, ideas are in small spaces. Connecting them seems important. Finding the people that will cultivate and enjoy those ideas, take them in new directions seems important. I've been working now for a long time in the generative AI space, and there also you can think of that as like finding the statistically average version of an idea, right? Like, I want to make rock music, and what is rock music? Or like, I want to make this picture, and what is the average version of that idea? And we're all playing with these the common data sets and things like that. So we're trying to find, like, go away from that average idea maybe. And again, that's like building these bridges. Maybe those bridges are like going away from the center. But again, you want to find the endpoints, find people that will help you build the bridge. Yeah, I guess I don't know your answer because I've been in university, so I'll come out and then maybe I can be hired by you.
So, but I think you have worked with a lot of live performance kind of stuff, so that's also one way. So just experimenting with actual musicians, actual artists in a live setting, and those experiments need not be very high fidelity. Like it could be a smaller effort, like a 1 month, 4 month, 3 month cycle. You can build something, experiment with these artists on ground in real performances, and maybe like if something sticks, if something is needed by 100 more musicians, and that can be built out.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I think Krishna, you have to say something. Yeah.
Yeah. So for me, collaborative sometimes, like since we make plugins for the music creators, and sometimes we just make like a MVP, and then I go and directly install it on the, like, some of our mentors, some of our top users, and like, some very high level people. There are some tech finicky users also, right? So you send them the beta versions, and then they're like, they tell us all you want to hear. Like, sometimes I might have 20 more ideas to build on top, but when I get when I get feature requests of let's say some 5 or 10 from them, then that's my like checklist of, okay, in my 15 ideas I'm going to build these 10 ideas in the next version. So that's how we work, and I feel it's really important to stay connected to who it is that you're building your product for. So that way, it really helps. Yeah.
No, for sure. I think so. One of the things that is very common in the whole discussion is also that you also need people who are experimenting stuff already. Like, for example, so when Krishna, you were looking for C++ developers, they were already like musicians who knew C++, and it was easy to teach them tools and so on, right? And Manaswi and Siddharth, you all have like also spent a lot of time in the academics world as well. You have visibility into what's happening there. So, and Sneha also, like, she's been helping like more like live coders as well to experiment more and create soundscape and all that. So in terms of connecting with researchers or people who do stuff just without any like vision of, okay, making a product, but just for the fun of it, because sometimes that's where the good ideas come in. So what do you think about that aspect of this whole ecosystem, where there are people who are just researching in academics and there are people who are doing some experiments elsewhere, and then how can that help in the building of ecosystem?
I find it so funny how you're describing a researcher is like, I just do something. And that's actually me on most days, but then there is like a seriousness to like a research question which you want to explore. And part of like how I see this academic environment is your research question need not be fueled by the next investor rounds, and so you can kind of focus on more meaningful questions that might take time to discover. We have talked about building ecosystems in terms of the bridges and the people, and what more can be said, according to me, is maybe in research, in academia, there are challenges as well. Like we said, there are no master's degrees, PhD degrees in like music technology overlap in India, or not enough, even if there are a few. So there could be more like efforts to build resources for research and creativity explorations. That is a frustration we all share, whether it's university or independent explorations. Building data sets that we can kind of evaluate and hold each other accountable for. So yeah, I think there are many other things to talk about in this building of the ecosystem, and so much to be done still.
Okay, so Sneha's question is, are there already like music tech courses in India? I think the answer, I mean, there are some things happening in small pockets. I think you can have like more visibility into it.
Well, I don't think there's any master's program called music technology. I mean, there's sound design related courses. Yeah, Ajay, yes, please. Oh, all right. So Ajay is telling us that there is one now in IIT Hyderabad. IIT Hyderabad? Yeah, super exciting.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, but it's only accessible to IIT students, right? I mean, it's not for somebody like, you know, who's not doing IIT. No, in this sense, okay. Yeah. Exactly.
So I think even that didn't exist, as I've been like going abroad and being pulled by like. So first, like even if that exists, that's at some points, but then we have to build, of course, more accessible points to get into researching this and seriously, and not just like trying out a toy example.
Sorry? Okay, so
All right.
so
I'll help you
you
build
should
it.
probably say it on the mic, yeah.
No, I mean, if there's no music tech course, I think I'm sure we all can think about building one. No? No? Is it?
Yeah. Are
Because
we all?
because it's very it's weird that you didn't find somebody to work in C++ in music tech. Like it's bizarre.
Yeah, I mean, there's lots of C++ people, but not working in the audio domain and in the DSP domain. I mean, even if there are, they probably learned that by studying abroad. And then in rare cases, they come back to work on companies that actually not Indian companies, like some Samsung, something like that, like, you know,
Yeah,
build,
sure.
working on automotive, DSP, those kind of stuff.
I also think it as a problem of, like, it's a cycle, right? Chicken and egg problem. So there is not enough demand of such audio in tech folks, maybe. There are not enough companies that work in audio. And why is that? Because there are no developers. So it's kind of a cycle, and like people who study abroad right now can create that demand in India by coming back, building companies here, building some other kinds of projects, maybe artist residencies of sort, because that is, you don't need to have a university going for that. Anyone can build an artist residency or a maker space of sorts. And that's where, like, that could be smaller starts into this, I
Yeah.
feel.
Yeah.
You mean it's not a feasible career option as yet in India itself,
Yeah.
is what you're saying? Sustainable.
Yeah, I think so. What we could, I think this is, I think we should get to the audience questions as well. So you want to say something before we do that?
Yeah. I think just the fact that we are discussing this and
Yeah.
surprised by this, and the audience is like, yes, we should build it,
Yeah.
is a great step in that direction. Frustrations we share, we're bringing it to the same stage.
Yeah, I think so. Before we do that, I just wanted like any like one action item from you all where you think which should be taken by everybody here or some folks here that will be in that direction.
I think we just came up with like a massive action item.
Yeah, so it's a
Building
music
school is a great
Yes.
project.
Okay. So we are doing that. Also, any I think. Yeah. So any other action item before we go to when we open it for the Q&A? Yeah.
So I really think we should reach out to some big universities like VIT, IIT in Chennai, VIT in Vellore, those kind of other great universities, and then like and then pitch this idea basically, and then because they are already a lot of engineering talent there, and they already have a portfolio of masters programs, and this just needs to be added in there. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. So yeah, I think so. We can take up questions. So feel free to ask away.
Yeah, and
We already-
just to add, like, it's not that there are no students working on it. They're in smaller pockets under DSP groups, under some audio research. People are working in smaller pockets. They do some kind of music research. They do acoustic modeling. We have RAG related research, so much of it. So they are still doing it. It's just that there is no formal course as such where which people can Google online, like, can I do a music tech course in India or something? There isn't any such course, but yeah, still people are doing it. So yeah, just to clarify on that.
Yeah.
Hello? Yeah. So thank you all for this amazing panel and a great question to kind of end it and move into questions to audience. So in terms of building bridges and communities, how do we as a community and as individual entities address funding for art and technology exploration and experimentation? And how do we leverage instruments and vehicles like private investment, governmental and non-governmental financial grants, academic grants, etc.? And in the absence of vehicles like these, how do we go about making changes through governmental policy changes and private institutional participation? How do we go about facilitating all of these? I guess it's a three-part question.
We'll have to build a board to begin with. Somebody will have to be regularly in touch with each other, at least to begin with a WhatsApp group. I mean, I'm just saying that it'll have to be organized by you and the society, and yeah. And that's what I think.
Yeah, so definitely government intervention is required there, government side funding, especially for art projects, because like the monetization out of an art project is still a very scarce in India. Like if you build an art project, you can break even at max, I feel like, if it's not a commercial project, high level project, right? And so usually outside of India, it's like European Research Council funds most of these projects in Europe. Similarly, I don't know about the funding scene in US. I think it might be both privately funded as well as publicly funded. But yeah, I think again, like it comes down to like how you are tackling those, how you are posing that problem to the government, like in what way, shape or form. Like, does it help the government expand on like Indian classical music? That might be more feasible to them than saying like, I want to do Desi pop in India and I want to do a project on it. So you can still get some kind of funding. I haven't done it myself, but I think policy making going into those areas, I think is still, at least I have a long way to go before getting into something like that. And privately getting funded for it, again, like depends on how huge the market is, then all of those sort of questions, right? Like how much money can you make out of it, or I can make out of it, and only then I can fund you. So yeah, and that's not very much in the art space, unfortunately.
So I think just adding to that point, so I think there are some projects, for example, Doordarshan archives, right, where some of the IITs are exploring that and trying to help the government in some way, right? I think the IIT Kanpur does some work in that domain. So, I mean, there is like some kind of requirement that the government definitely has. It's just that they are not aware that there are so many people in India who can actually solve it for them. So what they by default do is just go to these specific few IITs, and because they know there are people doing that stuff there. So I think making it more visible has to be a very important thing. Like starting a conversation that, hey, we are all here can actually help, right? Because then, so right now we all know that we are thinking the exact same thing, right? So even all those things can help. And maybe if we somehow make it visible to the government, they'll reach out. Yeah, hey.
So we are definitely in touch with the government through NASCOM, which is a bridge between startups and the government. And government do indeed wants to build LLMs for music in the Indian classical space, for folk music, archiving them. But yeah, it's still like, of course, it's government, so it will go a bit slowly. It's just been 1 year since the LLM rage has been happening. So it might happen, definitely. In the research space, of course, like with IIT collaborations or with some of these university collaborations.
It's funny how the question always comes down to IITs. Right? Why are we looking at IITs? Right? There's other engineering colleges, right? And it's not like IITs themselves have the monopoly on great tech in the country, right? There's a lot of, and even the idea that music tech itself needs to be done by engineers. Why we keep saying that? Like,
Yeah,
it's
absolutely.
music tech, right?
I think we are sharing that frustration to say that why does it go to the IIT? Why doesn't it go to like the artists and the engineers? Totally agree with you.
Yeah, no, and so there's design schools. So I personally have taught sound design in design schools. And it's just like a tiny push that's required of getting those same students that explore a bit more, and then you can do more things around it. Talking about, we had some mention of live coding and all of that. I've taught courses in filmmaking, design, sound design, creative coding, and in all of these courses, I would put in like a 45-minute segment at the end of the week-long class. And I just show them like a basic live coding system. And that simple thing just gets people excited so much. So, I mean, with Algorithm India, we've been doing workshops all over the country. You just throw like a little tiny bit, even with your startups, that get people involved, playing with your tools. And it's, I mean, you don't have to do it for the whole community. Maybe focus on your startup, just get that going. Even that itself would get enough people involved, I suppose.
Yeah. I think that's a great suggestion, yeah, for sure.
I agree.
Several years ago, I used to work with a project for dissemination and education of classical music in a government-funded virtual lab. And we were making a virtual lab for Hindustani music, and it was great and everything. And then we wanted more funding to grow the project. So we went to the Minister of Culture at the time, which, by the way, we don't have because it's culture and tourism in one, which is a very important thing for us to remember. In general. Anyway, so we had this long proposal about music education, blah, blah. And then he read the whole thing, thought about it for a while, maybe 2 days. Is this on camera? Sorry, I got really conscious suddenly. It is? Oh. We'll protect you. Thank you. And the question that was raised was whether there could be a system to discriminate better and worse artists from each other. So as to send them abroad for, like, to embassies or something. And we were really shocked, but I'm not shocked anymore because, like, the thing is that every funding agency operates with its very specific myopic interests. And I think it would be weird to forget about this while discussing funding in general. I just wanted to make a controversial point.
Adding on the government side of things here, right? Uh, so the way to access public funds is through public entities and public universities, and IITs are one form of public universities. And then that's the closest to the technology people here. Of course, there are a lot of universities that could be targeted, right? So again, so the core aspect of government funding is that it should benefit people and not the specific people who are receiving the funding. As long as we can convince the government of that, it'll happen. And then as she said, culture and tourism go together. So when you say heritage of India, and then you want to work on music or audio, if it is tied to the heritage, and if you could say that we will recreate this particular space of a very famous tourist attraction in terms of music, and then that gets you the government funding, and then the research for that will drive the people. And then these are some efforts, right? I mean, so there needs to be a livelihood aspect associated everywhere whenever there is a government funding needed. And whenever they are looking at speech technology, it's the same thing. They are looking at, is it actually benefiting the hinterlands of India? Is it benefiting the 300 million farmers who will use this technology to get something out of it? And then as a part of that, the technology development happens. And this is similar in most of the I mean, even in the US, Europe, it's similar, right? There is a public good associated. And then going towards the public good, there is a technology development that happens.
No, I'm just going to add one more last point, which is that because I teach in I agree with what you said, and also because I teach in a music tech program, because we're discussing about feasibility, viability, blah, blah, blah. I've never seen a single one that is not in a little bit of an existential crisis, because it's simply not a field where things work kind of one after another. People find their niche and all of these things happen with artistic journeys and all of that. And I don't know if that's right.
I didn't get that. So what?
Yeah, students and even the programs are always in this like element of threat.
Right. Okay.
Yeah, all over the world. Yeah, I just.
Sure. So students who do your course, your program, what do they end up doing in life? How do they? Or put out music.
Or do music. My students don't do yoga that I know of with me.
I think we have a question over there.
Yeah. It's a long day.
So something I want to bring up in the context of funding, and there's something else that came up in the panel earlier about doing things which are not in the capitalist framework. I think something that's often forgotten is open source, and that there's like a massive culture of college fests and other forms of, if I were to use the word communion, in India. It's very easy to create a culture around sharing. And I think maybe it might be nice to seed something. In Bangalore, a very long time back, we used to have something called the Sunday Jam. And there were a few sponsors, but a large part of the festival was put together with just contributions from small businesses. And it was one of the favorite, like everyone who was doing something interesting musically and experimenting with, at the time there was very little coding there. It was mostly just live electronics and sound and music. It was one of the most fun festivals we had today. I think the amount that people spend on events in Bangalore is way, way higher, like probably a couple of orders of magnitude higher today. But it's not as fun as Sunday Jam, which was like a community event, which was sort of crowd-funded and very, Burning Man-esque, if I were to draw that parallel. So I think doing this kind of a shared Creative Commons sort of effort with shared code and shared electronics and shared spaces could be like a nice way to like kickstart something.
Yeah. I mean, so.
Hi. So I'm the developer that Chetan was looking for many years. Okay, so hi, thanks. Okay, so but yeah, I mean the capitalist thing that the gentleman said just before me now is a wonderful thing, because a lot of us experimental coders and musicians, we are kind of we see that. I mean, I'm not to blame the famous composer on stage, but generally it's driven by music in India is generally driven by the film industry, and so things that we do is kind of not that format. So we are trying to create these small events ourselves. Like Akash, we created a gig yesterday. I think many of you attended that. And then this gentleman that talked about the Sunday Jam, I would love to talk to him again. And also, I want to just to go parallel, especially with the capitalist stuff that somebody, I think Abhinay has talked about it a bit. The capitalist stuff is driving a lot of this discussion. I would like to say, like, at the threat of my neck or whatever, that you can die for your art. You can die for your art, sacrifice yourself for your art, work hard, just do your art, like put your art out. There's so much possibility to put stuff out. Like you can release Bandcamp albums, a track for hours and stuff if you want. I mean, they're giving you all these facilities. You can stream 8 hours on YouTube. Somebody plays one sax phrase for 11 hours on YouTube. So yeah, I mean, all I would like to kind of put it out is that, be like Van Gogh or somebody, you could die for your art too, so that's something that you could consider. Yeah. So yeah, thanks.
I just want to add, like, this is great. It's this discussion. There are so many ways to approach this answer of how to build the ecosystem, how to fight it, how to find funding, how to pursue art. And I think that is true in general of like my belief when I was saying was like music means so many different things to so many people. And there are different reasons to pursue it. We are talking about the challenges, and there are so many, and articulating it and bringing it on the stage and saying it out loud on camera in front of people is so important. Then we are finding the answers here as well. So I'm really behind that. And I want to build these schools, find these fundings, find reasons why culture, tourism are together, can be separate. What are the different ways to detangle that? But at the same time, I want to just bring also to the opportunities that we have found. Coders in this, startups are starting to form. You just mentioned there's much more like investments coming in here, and so I would like to invite everybody to find those opportunities as well as we are articulating these challenges.
No, also to answer just a part of your statement, in the music industry itself, there's a lot of push and pull, okay, and one is not really in a happy place because one is not so Bollywood to be able to join the circus and enjoy it. I wish I did. I wish I believed in the fact that song and dance and that this is a creature and I should make music for it and I'll be happy. But it's a problem when you're in the middle. So. And there are phases in life and you can be that Van Gogh type artist. And then, there are phases when you cannot. I don't know why, but we can have that separate discussion. However, I just feel like there's no real revenue thing happening in the industry, music industry either. The entire industry is some 1,500 crores or something, out of which half of it is earned by T-Series. There's no streaming monies. The streaming monies are so meager that it's shameful. Royalties are also, they're muddy, I would say. Some people have complied, some people haven't. So there is a lot of issues there. The only industry that is thriving revenue-wise is the events industry for musicians. So people, the singers also, they come to the studio, they dare not ask for any money because they know that if they start asking for money, then the producers, music directors will stop calling them. I mean, I'm not talking about creme de la creme, Mr. Rahman, of course. But, but there are people who then they get to sing songs and then they go and do a lot of shows. And these shows are really well paying. So all I'm trying to say is that I don't think being in the music tech community is so sad, really. It is going to, in fact, leverage a whole event system that might work better than a lot of musicians community.
Yeah, for sure. I think so. Yeah, we'll take from Sohit.
Hi, my question is to Sneha specifically. I am a tech guy who wants to understand how to distribute his software in a way that it reaches you for when to solve problems that you have. For example, when you had a problem, when you wanted to use experimental music, you had the budget, you had the time, you did not have the time. So where can I put out my software? Where can I put out my profile in a way that it gets discovered by people when they need it?
I think that was the first reason why Soundcake, I was trying to imagine it, to bring, musical content creators together or something like that. But yeah, the industry is very small. So once you, let's say, reach out to me, I'm, let's say, a semi-level something, middle level kind of a person who I'm talking from rate card point of view. And then there are so many biggies who will actually use the plugins regularly and a lot more than some of us will. And they're just 10 or 15 people in,
Okay.
and you can start there. But yes, through Soundcake, then not just you, but even other people who are maybe somebody sitting in like Gorakhpur or something who wants to reach out to the industry. We are trying to open avenues for that.
Could you talk a little more about how Soundcake is doing that?
अभी तो Soundcake कुछ नहीं कर रहा है. It's just listing people and giving shout outs so that people can come into your session and submit their samples and you can buy the samples off them. We have a very strong legal companion with us, Kimani Associates, and we are still working out. We are currently doing everything manually, but hopefully we will open it up for maybe inviting collaborative tools like yours, your tools, etc., and to see how it can become a part of Soundcake, and then the whole community of Soundcake can use them.
Understood.
Something like that.
Understood. Thanks a lot. I just have one last question, which is how often, my knowledge of how I can distribute my software is that I can build a plugin and hope that it'll get used someday. So is that something that viably you see people in the space using, people around you?
I can give you an example. We're working on this film called LSD 2. LSD 1 was Love, Sex or Dhoka, which we done in 2008. And the same director, Dibakar Banerjee, is directing it and Ekta Kapoor is producing it. So for LSD 2, when we made this song and we were all sitting in the studio, there was a lyricist, there was a director, there was a sound engineer and one or two musicians, and we were all discussing lyrics and melody simultaneously. And then I quickly would put down the melody with the new lyrics on just an SM58. And then we saw the final output and Dibakar, my director, said, "Ye to Ekta will not understand. This voice of yours," because my voice is not a singer voice, right? That shines bright, and the song needed a certain kind of a voice. So we AI'd the voice, and we immediately, what is that, Musify? So we found Renee to sing it for us, and we played it to Ekta, and she obviously didn't ask who the singer is, but loved it.
Wow,
So
that's
I think
amazing.
we might release it that way.
That's really cool. And you found the plugin through, how did you how did you find the AI that you were using is what I...
So there are a couple of nerds in the studio.
Okay, got it.
And
got
so
it.
there is this really dear friend of mine, Venkat Iyer, who I think, Krishna, you reached out to. You reached out to Venkatesh Iyer? I think so, okay. Or maybe
Okay.
he was kidding. But he found out about, he also finds out stuff, and I think people are really there's so much on Insta
Okay.
coming up all the time that people have found their way around it.
Thanks a lot. Thank you so much.
So I think what in this whole discussion, and again in the interest of time, because we have few more talks, we'll wrap and we'll conclude. But I think the nice thing about the whole discussion is that we have not just talked about solution, but also more ideas and more problem statements, right? Like, for example, if you're building something like a good tool which a film industry can actually benefit from, how do you directly connect to them? And that's a problem statement. It's not solved yet. Maybe like somebody will come up with a solution, right? So I think there are a lot of discussions which actually kind of gave us visibility that at least we are all on the same page. And we all are like kind of from different backgrounds, but the mission is the same, somehow to have like a support system, and I think we should head in that direction for sure.
Yeah, the panel hopefully was not too grim. Like we have 100 people in the room. We have Sneha, who is from the film industry. We kind of went overboard with, but yeah, I think that's one great example of tech being used in the studios. A lot of labels have been reaching out to us, so they are more open to using technology within their ecosystems. So it's still opening up. We have more, with more demand will come more supply as well. And I think it's not that grim as we make it out to be.
Yeah.
Hi. Actually, I want to also say, like I was saying before also, I'm not afraid of saying out the grim parts. We're all actively saying it out loud, not to be upset about it, but face it and look at it. And then generally to conclude, the last 3 days we've been doing music hack days, and today we've heard all these talks ranging from so many different ideas, from analysis, synthesis, building tools, softwares, companies. And in general, that leaves me happy. I mean, it's maybe this field is grim, but I'm happy about being in it.
Manaswi, I really want to add one more thing about the commercial viability of what we do in music tech per se. I'm also an artist, and I'm an independent songwriter. So whenever I'm based out of Chennai, and whenever I go perform, no matter what kind of a indie-focused event it is, people still want to listen to film music. There's nothing wrong about it. We all grew up with film music. One idea that I pursued per se was, as a technologist, it doesn't take a lot to have a visual, a visual reflection of your performance. You can just listen to thresholds, or you're just your drum hits, and have something visually appealing. A kind of immersive a concert, right? And that is so easy to pull off as a music techie, because most of India consumes film music. Their best form of entertainment is film. Right, and in this domain where we are, it is so easy for us to create an alternative experience, and it's so easy from a tech perspective, right? And what I see is that individually we have so much knowledge and talent, and events like ADC that pulls people together, and something like a monthly meetup online or something, right? The organization. Because I've also seen the communities in Los Angeles, both musicians and technologists, they're organized in a certain way. And I see that, that we could be better organized in order to make this commercially viable and sustainable for us in a lot of ways. And it's just right there. The biggest thing is organization. The second thing is using our tech knowledge to propel whatever our music that we make forward, and to take it everywhere in the world, along with film music.
I think that's a great point to conclude at, because I think that's a great summary as well, and it's a great suggestion. And I think we should continue the discussion throughout. Yeah, I mean we should keep on talking about it, keep coming with solutions, and let's again make this ecosystem together. We are all aware of the challenges. Yeah, I think that's nice to add. Yeah.
So. I just want to say thanks to Prashant, actually, who put together ADCx for us in India. These events usually only happen in the US and Europe. So thanks so much, Prashant, for putting all of this together. So one more thing. See, all this discussion is about connecting, right? So why don't we just create a Discord group of like ADC,
so
whatever, and then let's connect. right?
For sure, it's a great idea. And I think there are, so first of all, I think this, and I'll be talking about this in the conclusion of the event, that the event that's happening today is actually accumulation of things that have happened in the past. And we'll talk more about it. Like, for example, Music Hack Day India has been happening since like for 4, 5, 6 years now. So yeah, I think it's a all collective effort, and we'll keep on doing that. And we'll have some action items to us in the conclusion, which will actually bring us together, and we'll do something together. Yeah. All right. Thank you everyone for listening, and we'll get to the next talks.